What is up, guys? Welcome to today's video. So if you guys have been following along with this build for a while, we built this Hellcat swapped Dodge Dakota, and if that isn't any indication of what we're about to do, Hellcat swap, we blew up a transmission. This is the replacement transmission, and we went to the track for the first time and it grenaded. If you haven't seen the video, here's a quick clip of it.
Check out this carnage here.
But besides that, check out that video separately and all the damage and all the fun stuff that happened. We've been trying to get this truck ready for roadkill nights in about 2 weeks. I have to leave here in a week because it's like 2,300 miles from here to get there. So it is going to be an insane adventure. Taking the camera along with me and with you guys so you guys can see the whole thing. So if you guys know, I purchased this transmission, came from LKQ, but it was missing a converter. And they heavily discounted it for that fact because it was supposed to have a converter, but it didn't. So I was debating running the one out of the grenaded transmission, even though it's not a good idea. I checked it. I didn't see any shavings or speckles or flakes or any sort of metal in it. But again, we don't want to grenade another transmission or risk running some bad fluid through it. So what we did was I ended up sending that converter off. It's getting rebuilt. It's going to have a stall in it, so it's going to be more of a performance converter. But I had to send it off. They didn't have any cores, so they needed mine to be able to build me a converter. So that left me without a converter. I went scrambling, found one on Facebook Marketplace, and that person was actually a subscriber to the channel and is familiar with the build. He hooked it up huge. So I don't know if he wants to be mentioned, but anyways, thanks again to that gentleman for sending this out to us. So he hooked it up with a converter and it's here in the box. It just showed up. He overnighted it to us. He wasn't using it with his swap. He's swapping a Dodge Dart and it's here. So we're going to take it out of the box, make sure everything's good. He packed it extremely well, and there was a bunch of packing material on top as well. And it's had this rubber glove over it since he bought it from the wrecking yard as well. So it should be in good order. Let's get it up on the bench and check it. All right, guys, so here she is. So it's got the bolts on it as well that go to the flex plate, but I still have those bolts as well. So we shouldn't need those. But let's take the tape off here. And he's had this sealed for a while. So nice thing, it's always nice when you see like something sealing it off so that no contaminants can actually get into this thing. And like I said, the amount of care that he's put in packing this kind of tells me that the rest of it should be okay. So I'm gonna get all this tape off of here. We'll take a quick glance inside of it. But again, this glove has been on it for a while. He mentioned as well since he got the engine. And he wasn't using the 8-speed, but sometimes when people separate things, they don't always, they just separate the engine and transmission without unbolting the converter from the flex plate. And then when that happens, the converter stays on the engine side. So that's what happened in his situation, even though he wasn't using the 8-speed. So he had no use for this, but we definitely have a use for it. So I'm gonna get all the tape off. We'll see what's inside. All right, there's a converter. Let's see. Fluid looks extremely clean. And I just cleaned out our little clear bucket. So I'm gonna go ahead and dump some of the oil in there. Just double check things, see what she looks like, and then we should be good to go. Okay, so I don't see any issues, you guys. So apparently this has about 40K on it, but fluid looks good. Probably looks about indicative for about 40K. Doesn't look terrible. This starts off as like a dark green color. So here we go. Let's go ahead and get the converter on the transmission. All right, so, and you'll know when you get it fully seated, you kind of have to move it around until you see it go all the way in. And what I mean by that is, I know it's just a piece of wood, but it's supposed to go in about 3/4 of an inch. So again, this isn't like a perfectly level piece of wood, but you can see there we've got a significant gap. When I put it in initially, it was sticking out only about 1/2 inch from, like I said, from the flat face to here. So now she's fully seated at least. So now the converter's in, and you're gonna have a little bit of fluid down here that we gotta mop up a little bit, just because when we turn the converter on its side, it kind of dumps some fluid out. And now she's in there ready to go. So this part is optional, but I'm just gonna do it just since I'm doing this by myself and I don't want to risk the converter somehow falling out. So I just put this here with this one bolt. There's like the way the oil pan goes on this is like kind of like that shape, but once I get everything real close, I'll take out this little 10 mil bolt here so that this little bracket is out. But like I said, I just want to make sure that this thing, when we got to lift it up, I got to get it on top of that transmission jack. So last thing I need is for this thing to come flying off and smack the ground. So we're almost ready. I'm going to use the engine hoist to lift this up onto there. I'm going to secure it onto that, and then we should be ready to throw it in here. So here's the setup, you guys. Got the straps through the top of the bell housing, and then on the two mounts on the back, I got some bolts with some washers on it. And we're just gonna pick this straight up. I'm gonna put it on here, then I'm gonna strap it down to here. It's got some holes and stuff, so we'll strap it down to the stand, and then we'll get this thing in here. There we go. Truck's up in the air. So I got everything tucked up out of the way. If you guys are wondering, with this system, it is really not that difficult to read the transmission. I was a little bit worried because I know this is a big engine in a small truck, and I thought it was gonna be a pain, but really didn't have to do a whole lot to get this out of there. So other thing too is I've got my bolts somewhat aligned so that we don't have to fight with that. So you can see I have these slightly off center there, and our flex plate, and this is the access. We've got those two bolts there, so it should be pretty close. And next thing is, like I said, just to get this thing up here. So let's get to it. And just like that, she's up here. If I didn't already mention it, I did shorten that, you guys, because my ceiling height is, I have 10-foot ceilings, but yeah, with trucks and stuff like that, I can go up a decent amount, but I can't go up like as much as a shop per se with like a huge ceiling, but this is a 10-foot ceiling. But anyways, so I have this on here. I'm gonna lower it a little bit. I just kind of put it up a little bit to apply some pressure, and I also lowered this so it's no longer on here. I put a couple straps here. It comes with a bunch of chains and stuff like that, but I prefer to do it this way, just with the straps. I like using these a little bit better. Only thing you gotta watch out is like, if we get this in here, to try to release this might be a little bit fun, that's also. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on this one as we get closer, whether I have the full swing to be able to release it, or whether, something's in the way, whether it's exhaust or whatever. So that's the only consideration. This one I put on the bottom here, which I could do over there as well. Only problem is with your adjustment to be able to tip the transmission in any which way, but I'm sure once we get it closer and stuff, we can probably relax some of these a little bit and get it a little bit closer in. So I'm gonna go ahead, take that off. I'm gonna get it over here, so we're gonna roll the transmission over here. Hoping I can get it through here. I might have to play a little game getting it around this cross member here, but we'll get it over there and get some bolts in it and get it in there. Well, that worked out surprisingly well. So I just went right through here because there was like the biggest opening, and she's up in here. So I probably have to rotate the transmission back this way, which I can do with these like adjustment knobs. So evidently I have this thing on some crazy angle for some reason. So I'm gonna turn this one. Maybe I had it when I used this last time. Maybe I had this at the front because it's kind of universal. So there we go. It looks a little more straight. And we'll just go up with it and start getting this thing close to being able to bolt up. Alright, so she's almost in place. I just gotta put this this plate that goes between the transmission and the engine Gotta get it aligned, but now I think I can take out my little bracket that I threw in there, because we're pretty much good to go. I think maybe just a little bit higher, and should be able to get pretty close. And I'll turn on the lights here for a second. You guys can probably hopefully see the threads right there. Hopefully you can see that. It's gonna line up here so that we can get our bolts in through the flex plate. As long as we get like 1 or 2 in, then we're really in business, because then I can start rotating the engine and everything's gonna be lined up. So everything's looking good so far. Our little modified transmission jack is working awesome, and we'll keep plugging away. I don't know, guys, sometimes things just work out, and in this case everything is going so smoothly. So I just butted everything up. I literally just used these little levelers to get it into place, butt it up, managed to get 1 bolt in, kind of had to twist the transmission a little bit, use the levelers here, and then I got this one in, and it just sucked itself in perfectly. And as you can see there, our bolts are lined up for our flex plate into our converter. And I didn't even move that. That was pure luck. So, like I said, sometimes maybe some things are just meant to be. So, that's on there. I'm gonna start getting some of these other bolts in here. I'm gonna get the top ones on. Those ones are a little bit harder. So, I'm gonna start getting some bolts in, and we'll start getting her rigged up. Bingo. So, these ones are 27 foot-pounds. The other bolts are 33 foot-pounds, the ones that hold the transmission to the engine block. So I got those torqued down, and I'm just gonna rotate. There's 6 of them, so I'm just gonna rotate it around. All right, so all the flex plate bolts are tight, torqued. Same thing with the transmission to engine block bolts, so it's all tight. And what I'm doing right now, so we can get this stand out of here, is I just put our Hooker Blackheart transmission bracket on, and then I'm gonna put the Hooker Blackheart cross mount brace or cross member across here, and then we can have the transmission resting on that, and I can get this out of our way. Boom. All right, well, that's done. Everything's tight there. Only thing left for major components, I mean, we got some plugs and wires, and I gotta unplug this one. This is cut from the LKQ wrecking yard. Here's the real one. But the next part is the starter motor. So definitely need the starter in there, so let me get that in there. Okay, I've just been motoring through this, you guys. Starter is on, wiring is on, our ground wire is on. I put on our connector for our transmission, and right now I am just about to click in our cooler lines, and then I gotta put this on for our emergency release, tie a couple things up, and most of this is on. So other than our drive shaft and our exhausts, we might be able to see if this thing would work. Okay guys, it is 1:39 in the morning. We got the transmission in. That's about as much as I want to do for tonight. Everything's hooked up. Like I said, just missing a drive shaft and exhaust, but we got to try to program this transmission as well and make sure the computer's happy. So we'll tackle that in the morning. So I'll see you guys in the morning. So it's the next day, and I just got a call that the drive shaft is ready for the Hellcat. So we're gonna go over and pick it up. It's about a 25-30 minute drive. So I'm happy that that's ready. So one more thing off the list. So let's go over and pick that up. Hopping in the good old Eco Diesel. I don't know how hot it is outside. It says 127. So this thing was sitting in the sun, but I think it's only like 109, but still 127 on the dash. It is a toasty one out there. Here we are, you guys. So we're at John's Drivelines. and this one should be all aluminum, so let's go check it out. All right, so we made it to John's Drivelines. So here's the aluminum one. He's gonna explain some of the stuff on it. He was just saying he's got foam in it, and then what's the thickness of the wall?
125 wall.
So 125 wall, we got a 4-inch drive shaft, and then we got a slip over here. Everybody was wondering whether we had a slip on the last one. So that's was that like 3-inch, I guess?
Yeah, it's like it's probably like a 3-inch, and it has like Teflon coating inside.
So that will expand and contract too if we need it to, and also like the ends, we were showing it, like we kind of moved it in and out, and like the ends hiss, so the ends aren't sealed off, so that it actually doesn't like get pressurized.
Yeah, that when you weld the tube in, it doesn't explode.
Yeah, so no, not at all. And then he also balanced it, and we balanced it with that Sonax piece on the end, so it's not like we balanced it without it and then threw this on. So yeah, he's got it fully balanced out with it on. So, and he double, triple checked it because he doesn't want this to happen just as much as we don't. So yeah. I think, what other, is that pretty much it on this? Or?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's good for a lot of horsepower. It's got the 1350 U-joints, a non-greasable type, balanced. This thing's greased. This thing's a lot bigger than your other one was, so just to ensure that this isn't going to alleviate every problem that you have, hopefully no problems at all.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, you're all set. That's pretty much it, yeah.
So huge shout out to these guys too. I'll link them down below because they hooked it up. They took our steel one in on trade, and they're hooking us up with this aluminum one, just for going through the whole headache. But honestly, I'm pretty sure we all agree that it was just the transmission that was faulty. So, because like I said, he even checked the old one and it was still balanced out. Even after all the carnage, it still was balanced. So, but either way, we're going to do this one because they were saying this is like a third of the weight of the steel one we had on there as well. So, yeah, should be good to go. Okay, she's loaded up. Again, I will link John's Drivelines if you guys need this. They have the measurements. If you guys ever decide to build anything crazy like this, you can hit them up and they could build you one of these out of steel or aluminum. So one thing I am gonna do, you guys, is I showed you guys, and I just removed this nut, is the amount of slop on this yoke here. So this one was extremely loose, which we are wondering if that led to the failure. This is supposed to be tightened down to 44 foot-pounds. So again, 44 foot-pounds is what the spec is for this. It doesn't have Loctite, but it is indexed from the factory. So they kind of punch it in once they're done tightening it. So if I can get this back out of here, I'll show you something. So again, this one wasn't moved. It was still in its original location. But watch, if I go over here, so that one was loose a little bit, and then here's another one. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but the nut isn't fully seated on here. So I can turn the flange underneath the nut, which means that that nut doesn't have full torque on it. So it doesn't have no 44 foot-pounds, otherwise it would be up against the face of this and I wouldn't be getting this tiny bit of slop. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but the flange is turning, but the nut is not. So that means that this needs to be tightened down. So I'm going to take this stake out of here, and I'm going to try to put a little bit more torque on this down to spec, 44 foot-pounds. Okay, so it's kind of a bittersweet, you guys. I'm glad that I checked this, but at the same time, I'm kind of pissed off that these are not tightened down, because like I said, I have zero slop in this now, whereas before I was showing you guys how much slop I had in this thing. So anyways, I'm going to use a punch, and I'm going to stake this back down so that it can't move, but kind of ridiculous that I'm having to do this when it's factory staked and should be tight from the factory. All right, well, I've staked in the nut in the new location, and now it feels solid, you guys. So dang, look at that drive shaft. That thing looks badass in there. Still good amount of room going with that 4-inch, but looking real good, you guys. So it's all bolted up. She's all in here solid. So next up, I'm gonna throw the mufflers up and we can start checking everything coming through here and seeing how it's gonna look. All right, so we got the exhaust in, and I ordered some exhaust wrap for here for where it goes through. So I'm gonna wrap this stuff. It shows up on Thursday, which is 2 days away from now. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap all this just so that it keeps heat off the drive shaft, and also probably keeps some heat in the pipes and out of the cab as well. So that's it there. I'm gonna mess with some programming probably and make sure that the transmission talks to everything. And I also am going to see about putting that drive shaft loop in here as well. So probably gonna be drilling that through the floor here. Looks like it'll fit beautifully here, so I'll have to get that out of storage and put that in here too. All right, so right now, you guys, I'm using Alpha OBD and I'm connected to the transmission control module, and there's not many options for the TCM. There's reset, adaptive values, quick learn, and then VIN write. So this is asking for the 17-digit VIN. So I'm gonna put it in there, and then we'll write it to the transmission control module. I don't know if there's any other procedures. There's really no documentation on this, so I'll let you guys know. Oh, I'm getting this failure message right here, you guys. Failed. The ECU has detected that the request contains parameters with values outside the allowable range. So not sure what that means, but I'll try to see if I can figure this out. All right, guys, well, I'm not gonna show you all my VIN numbers and everything, but even though it was showing that it wasn't writing, when you go into and you see read system ID, the current VIN, so you can see it says VIN current and VIN original, my VIN is actually in there. So it did actually work, even though it said it didn't. So good news on that, and we should be good to go. So I'm gonna wrap up this video here, you guys. It's late outside. You can probably hear the crickets, and yeah, it's pretty late. It's almost midnight again, but ton of work done. And then tomorrow I want to top up the transmission fluid before I actually start it. So you guys will have to wait till the next video, because still got a lot of stuff to do. I still got to do all those header wraps around there. I still got to put on the drive shaft loop. Still got to start it, still got to test it. So still a lot of content on the way, but I want to keep this a little bit short. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks to John's Drivelines for hooking us up with that aluminum drive shaft. It looks like it fits awesome. And I'll keep you guys posted. Drop a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. See you guys in the next video.